Good evening, good afternoon, good night, good morning, wherever you are in the world. You just seen the mighty Nearco, bred and owned by Marchese Inciso della Rocchetta and Senatore Federico Tesio under the banner of Razza Dormello Giatta, winning the Grand Prix de Paris in 1938. I have to say that Nearco changed completely the world of thoroughbred since his progeny arrived on Earth. And you should bear in mind that nowadays over 90% of the horses running every day on the planet, they carry Nearco's blood. And this is an unbelievable achievement. Tonight, I have a special guest. I am very proud of him and very honored to get him on show. And this gentleman is Aidan O'Brien. Welcome to the program, Aidan.
Thank you very much for having me, Carlo. It's my pleasure. Great to see you.
Listen, I want to tell you something. The program will not be on City of Troy because otherwise it will be boring because everybody has spoken about City of Troy. But the other day, when I watched the television, I noticed something unusual for me that City of Troy was had a ring beat, which I don't understand why, because usually you don't use gears very often, hood, cheek pieces, or blinkers. But this ring beat sounds unusual for me. But I'm not a trainer.
Yeah, no, it's we use them a lot on a lot of our horses, Carlo. It's just a bit and with a ring around the middle of it. Sometimes he crosses his lower jaw and he just catches the bit on one side. It's but we use it on a lot of horses. Um, Depends on where they are or whatever. But no, a lot we've ridden around a lot of horses with it, Carlo. Really, but this part of the world it would be a very familiar bit, really.
Oh, okay. So that's my mistake. I feel sorry for that. But as I said before, I'm not a trainer. Anyway, I've been to Ballydoyle 3 times in my life. The first time was during the winter of 1981. And if you remember, somebody cut Stonebird tail. So I arrived there, let's say probably end of January or beginning of February. And Sue Magnier was there. And Sue O'Brien Magnier was there. And she locked me into a car and she drove me around Ballydoyle. So I had the chance of seeing everything, including the box of Stonebird. And at the end, I met the great Vincent O'Brien. The second time was after Secreto won the Derby for David O'Brien. I went there with David, my second visit. And the third visit was with you, I think, 3 years ago. And it was very, very interesting because, I've seen in a certain way 2 generations of trainers there, and I follow 2 generations of trainers. So, what I would like to talk with you and to explain to our watchers how things change since Vincent O'Brien joined Team Vigors, for Coolmore, and then the discovery of Northern Dancer, Robert Sangster, Vincent O'Brien, John Magnier, and Tom Cooper of the BBA, the Northern Dancer progeny, which unfortunately you didn't train because you were too young. But then Sadler's Wells came on stage, trained by Vincent O'Brien. But you trained a lot of Sadler's Wells, a lot of the progeny of Sadler's Wells. Can you tell us the main features of these Sadler's Wells offsprings?
Yeah, I suppose they're very relaxed horses. They stay very well, very genuine. I think that's probably the biggest thing. Obviously, we would have known Galileo, like obviously very genuine, High Chaparral. I think they were Sadler's Wells' first Derby winners. Very genuine. They stay middle distance very well. But I suppose genuine and class is what they have is their biggest asset, I think, Carlo.
And I remember Monjeu that you didn't train because Monjeu was trained for Michael Tabor by John Hammond in France. Monjeu was a little, I think that he was a bit feminine in his, I mean, in his, I don't know, in his way of, he was built. And then probably is the only one that he produced. His progeny were a bit in and out. Camelot is a great horse, but sometimes he tends to carry his head high, but it's not the case of Los Angeles, who won the Derby. What do you think?
Yeah, I suppose Camelot himself wore his head very low. Montjuic, I think maybe might have wore his head a little bit higher naturally. But I think Camelot's, as a rule, wear themselves much lower than Montjuic's did. But they have the brilliance that he had, and they obviously the stamina as well, I think, Carlo.
Anyway, then, as you say, Galileo came on stage. You trained Galileo, and I was at Leopardstown the day that Galileo was beaten in the Irish Champion Stakes. And the winner was a horse called Fantastic Light. Then he disappeared. We didn't know anything about him anymore. Anyway, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum was there. After the race, you know that there is a sort of a press conference given by the trainers or the owners to the press. And we were there because I was there listening to Sheikh Mohammed. And Sheikh Mohammed says something, I think, very funny that you probably don't know. He say they, meaning Coolmore, I mean the owner, John Magnier, Derek Smith, and Michael Tabor, and of course Aidan O'Brien. They came here to see the stars, and they saw the light instead, referring, to fantastic light. I think that it was a good sense of humor to say this sentence. Then again, what the main feature of Galileo offsprings?
Yeah, I think obviously, like himself, we always say they have unbelievable minds. They're very tough, very genuine. They wear their heads very low. They're I suppose their genuineness is the big thing, and I think that will live on in pedigrees for generations from now on.
Anyway, I have to say that John Magnier, who everybody knows, he denied the other day, laughing on the television, that he is the boss, he's the one, the decision maker at Coolmore. But anyway, John Magnier, in my opinion, is a great guy. I have to say that he's a genius for what he has done and what he is doing. And I have to say that it was another fantastic purchase. Two horses in America, American Pharaoh and Scat Daddy. Scat Daddy then, he died unfortunately very soon, but he produced a lot of good winners and stallions, including Justify. American Pharaoh, it seems to me that in Europe, the offspring of American Pharaoh they are not going extremely well, but Justify, they are fantastic. What do you think the main feature of this Scat Daddy progeny and American Pharaoh and Justify? That
Yeah, I
you
suppose.
trained a lot of them.
Yeah, I suppose we didn't have too many American Pharaohs. They're kind of middle distance horses. Unusual. They handle ease in the ground here in this part of the world, but I think he's very popular stallion for what he stands for. All American breeders all use him a lot. He's always booked out. Obviously, we had Justifies and we have more of them. They're very genuine horses, great movers, great minds. They carry their steps low like Galileo's. Obviously, he's by Scat Daddy, so they have a lot of tactical speed as well, but they're very comfortable at the classic trip. So we think that they're going to be very unusual horses going forward, very, very special, very want after horses. So yeah, we're very excited about them. They're great movers, great minds. They get the classic trip very well, and we think that they're going to really suit everywhere in the world, really, between dirt and grass.
Exactly. I think that this is a phenomenal feature, because the offspring of Justify, they can handle easily the dirt and they can handle easily the turf, even the soft ground, because some of the justify you have, they want on soft. City of Troy one on softer too. The other day, the ground, of course, was not firm, but I noticed that probably City of Troy action reveals that probably it could be a different horse on a firm ground, or good to firm, or good ground. What do you
Yeah,
think?
yeah, no, you're right, Carlo. He's a beautiful mover, and there's no doubt he prefers a good fast ground. But he has a massive engine, and his engine just kind of powers him through the soft ground. But there's no doubt on fast ground, he's definitely a much better horse.
And do you think that his action could suit the dirt in America for the Breeders' Cup eventually?
I think, well, he moves very like Justify himself. Justify was a big horse, covered a lot of ground. He's a big, long stride. He didn't bend his knee much, so he moves very like him. But that's one thing that Justify seems to be doing. He's really stamping all his stock with action.
Yeah, and then you were, let's say, a little bit unlucky with Giant Causeway. You remember Giant Causeway? I was there when he got beaten by Tisnao, just I think a neck or a head or something, and that was the Breeders' Cup Classic. Then you tried again with Word of Declaration, and he finished third, beaten by Mucho Macho, something like, I can't remember the name, Mucho Macho or something. So you've been extremely unlucky, and maybe that this one could be the one because of what you said.
It may be absolutely like obviously, his dad was a pure dirt horse, and obviously his dam was a classic win in Oaks filly. So he's an unbelievable pedigree on both sides. But hopefully, we think that Justifies are going to work on both surfaces really, and we're looking forward to this horse. He's tactical speed. He stays very well, and he's very genuine.
Okay. Uh, Tell us something that probably nobody knows, because suddenly, many years ago, out of the blue, John Magnier appointed this young guy, Aidan O'Brien, as a trainer at Ballydoyle on this unbelievable facility. As I said, I was there 3 times. I had the chance to walk on the reproduction of the Tottenham Corner, so it was very impressive. Oh, I think that is the most unbelievable training center in the world. How come that John Magnier appointed you?
I'm not sure, Carlo. I think you're asking the wrong man there. Obviously, we were doing well at the time, and we first three seasons, our first 3 or 4 seasons were very good, and obviously John had the facility, and obviously he needed a tenant to see what he would do with it. He obviously didn't want to turn it into a stud. Uh, it was a training facility, and I suppose he probably reckoned that, listen, he would give it a go, doing what it always did as a training facility, from like Dr. O'Brien setting it up, and see what would happen really, I suppose.
And another thing, you've been very unlucky, I have to say, with Camelot. I know that John Magnier, especially John Magnier, wants to win the Triple Crown badly, because the last time the things happened was in 1970, when Nijinsky, the mighty Nijinsky, trained by Vincent O'Brien, won the Triple Crown, and it was a fantastic achievement. Camelot, I think that it was very, very unlucky, because he got beaten in the St. Leger by a horse, and we know the story. Then the stable Godolphin were closed for many months. So I think that in my opinion, the organization of Coolmore or Ballydoyle, you need badly to win again the Triple Crown, because somebody says, "Oh, but if a horse wins the St. Leger, he is not popular for the breeders." This is a stupid thing, because Nijinsky won the Triple Crown, and he was oversubscribed every year for nomination, because he won the Guinness, he won the Derby, and he won the St. Leger. So if a horse win the Triple Crown, he will be very, very popular, I think, with the breeders. Do you agree?
Yeah, I suppose, Carlo, it's very unique, really, Triple Crown winner. Obviously hasn't been done since Nijinsky, like you said, and we tried to do it, and Camelot nearly did it. But like obviously, he's a very unique horse, but it's just very difficult to get a horse to do it. Obviously, like obviously we tried it again this year and it didn't work. But hopefully sometime it will work. But it's a very difficult thing to do, really.
Anyway, John Magnier every year, let's say John Magnier, otherwise I have to mention all the others. Let's say John Magnier every year provides you what in Italy we call stoffa inglese. That means English fabric, or if you wish, la creme de la creme of the thoroughbred all over the world. But you have a very, very difficult task because you have to create champions, colts and fillies out of this creme de la creme. Because Coolmore every year has to produce stallions, to produce group winners, fillies group winners to become great brood mares. So you have not an easy task, I think.
Yeah, no, but listen, obviously it's like we get the best stock in the world, Carlos. They're the best pedigrees, the best physiques, bred like obviously and reared in Coolmore. Obviously owned by like John and Sue and Michael and Dorian and Gay and Derek, and now it's George and Emily and Peter and Stephanie. So now and other people are in some legs, but like, we get the best stock and we have an unbelievable facility here. Very lucky. Like obviously it's a big advantage for us before we ever start racing. I suppose, as you can know, the best pedigrees as well. So we are in a very privileged position, really.
Yes, because John Magnier was able to assemble an unbelievable number of brood mares, which are, bred in a fantastic way. Then John Magnier had the idea of sending mares to Japan, mainly to Deep Impact. And then you had to train the progeny of this Japanese stallion. You started with Saxon Warrior, then we arrive at Auguste Rodin. What do you think that are the features of this offspring of this Japanese stallion who unfortunately died?
Yeah, sure. Listen, it was unbelievable foresight from John. Really, like Rhododendron was one of the best brood mares, one of the best mares by Galileo that we've ever had here, and obviously turned out to be one of the best brood mares. For him to send a mare like that to Japan was incredible, and that year I think he only had a very small amount of foals because that's the year he passed away. So it was an incredible foresight. Like obviously John wanted to bring the two continents together with the best mare by the best stallion in Galileo, this part of the world, and send her to the best Japanese stallion. So I suppose he saw at the time that Japanese pedigrees were really building and improving and were very near at the top of the world. So it was an incredible foresight, really. And then obviously to get a horse like Augustus Rodin, it was incredible, really.
Oh, yes, incredible achievement with this Japanese, let's call them Japanese horses. I have a final question for you because I was thinking, having a look carefully at Coolmore, the organization. You are young because if I'm not wrong, you are 54. Am I right?
Exactly, Carlo.
Born in
Yeah,
1960. So
yeah.
you could be, probably you could be my nephew.
Okay,
Anyway,
okay,
apart from that,
okay, Carlo.
how can you see Coolmore and Ballydoyle in 10 years? Because John Magnier is not my age, but if he runs very fast, he can get me. Michael Tabor is maybe 1 year or two older than me. Derek Smith, we are more or less the same age. Georg von Oppel, this year he hasn't bought any. Last year, sorry, he hasn't bought any yearling. And Peter Brandt came in, but Peter Brandt is a great collector of modern art. But his age, as I said, is like John Magnier. If he ran very fast, he can get me. And then Michael Tabor's son is involved in the music and in the show business. John Magnier has 3 kids involved in the business. Derek Smith, Paul Smith is very keen on horses. Peter Brandt has kids, but they are working in the paper factory, White Birch. So how can you envisage Coolmore and Ballydoyle in 10 years' time?
Oh, I suppose obviously all John's family is very involved in it. We MVs were very close with MV, JP. Um, Tom is runs Australia. Obviously Derek Smith. Then Paul is very involved. It would be Derek's eldest son. And Michael Tabor. Ashley is very involved. It would be Michael's son. So they're all very involved, really. George is a young man. Then I suppose Peter has his sons in the business as well. So it's and everyone is very involved, Carlo, in it, and they're all very aware of what's happening every day, and their input goes into everything, into all the decisions with the lads, really. So it's very it's very kind of distributed out with everybody, and everyone knows what's happening, and decisions are made and why they're made, and everyone is, I would imagine everyone feels very involved. Obviously, the boss is as from an early stage, and obviously he has his grandkids involved in it now as well. So and like all the Magners, I suppose, like starting at Tom, Kate, then JP, MV, and Sammy, they're all very involved, So it is very open, and everyone seems very interested at the moment, Carlo. But the boss is in great order. He's probably fitter and better now than he was for 10 years. I think he's and so hopefully, please God, and Sue. Like I just saw both of them were at Sandown during the week. Obviously,
Yes.
Michael Tabor, Derek was there, Derek Smith, and they were all there. So it's great for us, really. That everyone is so involved and interested in it, really.
Aidan, you made two mistakes in 30 seconds.
Yes.
Two big mistake. You know why?
No.
Because you say the boss twice.
Yes.
Oh, that means that the boss, John Magnier. So that means that the lads is one lad, John Magnier and company.
Oh yeah. Well, listen, John. Like obviously, when I would speak to John, Michael, or Derek, I would speak to them very regularly, and the two of them or the three of them, they're all together all the time, and they make all the decisions and very involved in it, and obviously George and Peter as well, and Sue. I can't tell you how united they are. Like obviously when we came to Ballydoyle first, John owned it, Ballydoyle, and obviously John owns Coolmore and Sue. So and then obviously Michael was the first. Michael owned our first classic winner in Desert King. We had a mare called a Classic Park. The same. I think the two classic winners were the same weekend. Classic Park and Desert King, and Michael was involved in. I think after a few years, Derek came along. So the filly was owned by a man called Seamus Burns. So yeah. So listen, they've all been very involved all the way, really, Carlos.
And anyway, that was great. So, if you wish, can you tell us what's going what where we will see Augusto Rodin next?
Yeah,
King George?
yeah. The plan at the moment is the King George. Obviously the lads haven't decided with City of Troy where he's going to go, and obviously he would have an option of the King George, the the Judgment or the Irish Champion Stakes. So it's going to depend on where they're going to send him. But at the moment, the plan for Augustus Rodin was that he would go to the King George after Ascot.
And then I think that now we might have a break, if you don't mind, a very short one, and then we come back for the final. Now, Betfred has announced a bonus of £2 million for a horse who will win the the triple crown. So I wish you all the best for this achievement. I hope to see Auguste Rodin in the King George, because I'll be there, and I hope to see City of Troy at York. Anyway, I think that Auguste Rodin, you mentioned the Japan Cup, because being by a Japanese stallion, the Japanese might be interested for the nomination or something.
Yeah, that's possible. Obviously, the King George was marked in for him next at the moment, but it's very possible that he could end up going to Japan for the Japan Cup, Carlo. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your participation, and I wish you all the best. See you soon.
Yeah, please God, look forward to it, Carlo. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.